hit that live or hit that like button. I'm live, so super chats are open, as well as don't forget the donations and setting up your what the hell? Setting up your consultations. So this live is going to be outdoor edition. The wrong name on the warrant. Beat the case, clear your record, then sue. Now picture this: a knock at the door, red and blue, wash your walls. An officer says, "There's a warrant for you." The name is yours, except it isn't. Maybe a typo, maybe an alias someone stole, maybe you changed your name. Tonight we weaponize the law when the state gets your name wrong. Now, I'm gonna give you an example. I forgot the young man's name. I'll do something on that a little later. I'll post it again in the community section. Police officer gets out the car and he goes up to this man while he's on his own porch. And he grabs him and says, "Hey, there's a warrant for you out of Louisiana." He goes, "Dude, I've never been to Louisiana." He goes, "Yep, it's you. You're out of Louisiana." He said, "Well, what's the name on it?" He said, "Your name is Lewis." He said, "No, my name is Clarence." He said, No, you're going, that Clarence is your alias." Well, another officer comes up and tells him, after verifying the warrant, that's not the right guy. The officer still insists on arresting this man. He is now being sued in federal court because that wasn't the man that they were looking for. Names didn't even match. Pictures didn't match. But in the context of that is the understanding, just because the names are similar and everything doesn't line up, because even a greater example, young man in, I want to say, Cleveland, Ohio, 24-year-old young man, just graduated, I think, the University of Chicago. He was arrested based on the name being the exact same as a 40-year-old white man, or excuse me, Caucasian male. And in the midst of that, the police never verified the warrant. They just looked at the name and said, "Yep, that's you." Looked at his ID, "Yep, that's you." Like, hold on. 6'1" male, dark skin, black. He's 240 pounds. The man that we're looking for is 140 pounds. He's white and 40. They were sued because just because the names match didn't mean description match. Because when you translate your rights into results, you suppress their alleged evidence, you get your charges dismissed, and walk out with your freedom intact, and then position a lawsuit to make you whole. That is the whole point in everything that I'm doing here, and making sure you guys get what it is that you're looking for. Now, when you use your 4 anchors, what legal name means, why mistakes happen, typos, aliases, name changes, identity theft, how to navigate the criminal process, and how to pursue civil damages while preventing a repeat of the action. And basically, as your host today, let's move from fear to leverage, because I actually had a conversation about that. We don't move by fear. Even though fear is a great motivator, that's not what moves us and makes us complete and actually do this, because this is not for the weak. Excuse me. Now, understanding legal name and why warrants go wrong. The legal name matters because warrants must describe something particularly to be seized. That includes the person. The Fourth Amendment particularity requirement, or specificity requirement, applies to people as well as places and things. See GROH v. Ramirez, and it's the 2004 case. Factually deficient warrants can't be saved by good faith. I'm going to say that one more time. Factually deficient warrants can't be saved by good faith. That man that arrested that young man that was standing in his driveway, who failed to follow the totality of circumstances, is liable because he did not abide by good faith, because he didn't do his job properly. Now, the common failure modes: typos, state aliases, failure to update a name change, and identity theft. Now, I'm going to give you one. It's the most amazing thing in the world, because when you get an ID, they give you have to have pretty much a government-issued birth certificate, which has your name on it, the way it's spelled on it. You have to have a government-issued Social Security card, which has your name on it and how it's spelled on it. The funniest thing for me, again, for the longest, I want to say until my 30s, my ID, birth certificate, and Social Security did not match. Say that one more time. My ID, my Social Security card, and my birth certificate all had different names on them. It was the most interesting thing I'd ever. All of them spelled my name differently. Every last one of them. And what was funny about it was because I didn't give a crap about my middle name, so it didn't really matter to me. But the fact that you're using the same documents and all three of them spell my name differently. And it was the most hilarious thing. But we have an efficient government, which is why I never really paid attention to most of the stuff that they do. And I never put any credence into it, because I don't think most of them are very intelligent. So it is what it is when it is when it is. So when you're talking about this, I actually have a great story on that. Prior to me ever coming to Texas, I used to go by a ton of aliases. Just so happened, one day I get stopped, and I'm in, I forgot what state I was in. I want to say I was in Virginia. So when I get stopped, the officer runs my name, because again, at the time, I hadn't used my name in years. So I give the officer my name, my ID, which was my actual real stuff. And he goes, "Hey, where were you born at?" I said, "That's an odd question to ask." I was like, "New York." He goes, "Okay. When was the last time you been to Texas?" I was like, "I've never been to Texas at the time." And he goes, "Hold on for a second." So now I'm curious. So I get out the car. He goes, "Hey, come here. I want you to see something." I'm getting ready to put you in cuffs. He said, "But I want you to understand, I'm not BSing you." I said, "What?" He said, there's a person with your exact same name, born on your birthday." He said, "I'm looking at the pictures. There's a height difference. There's a weight difference." He said, "But y'all are the same age, same name. Both of y'all were in New York at the same time." He said, "Well, the other guy," he said, "because you're six, I think on my license I had 6'3", 6'3", and 240 pounds. The other guy was 5'9" and 170 pounds. So he goes, he said, that's a big discrepancy." He said, "But I'm going to look into it a little bit more, so give me a little bit more time." So I'm like, "Hey, take time." So I'm like, "What is he charged with?" He goes, "Murder." I was like, "Wow. Yes, you take your time, because we can't make any mistakes with this, because I don't want this coming back." So when he finally verifies that it wasn't me, I thought about the fact that even he recognized, he said, had this been one of my other partners, you'd have probably spent the weekend in jail. He said, because they would not have cared about those discrepancies. And most police officers don't, because they don't do the job properly. And this is one of the reasons why, because you can't be caught up in the midst of them doing the totality of circumstances because they're not there to actually perform lawful duties. So don't get caught up in that. But the idea of it is understanding those things happen because they were just minor, very minor. Because if you're looking at it, you're not really going to care about a height difference of 6-7 inches. You're not going to care about a 40 or 50 pound weight difference. You got the guy that's the name is close enough with the birthday. It's close enough. So go ahead and take them in. But again, the verification and looking at photos and then looking at me like, no, you're not the same guy. So those things happen because even with me, I've had identity theft. And if you've had it, these are things that can also affect you. Give you another example. Again, told you I didn't use my ID a lot. Didn't use my name a lot. One day, my brother, who he knew he had a warrant, decided, since he knew my information, he was like, oh, well, Rich is good. So he gives the police officer my information. Problem was, I wasn't as good as he thought I was. His ass went to jail for about a week. Because we're like, where's he at? He was like, man, I gave them your name. I was like, appreciate you doing that time for me. Because, and what ended up happening was, I think it was like a warrant for, it was some warrant for some BS, and the person never came to court. So the judge threw it out. So he ended up, this case get dismissed, and he never verified his identification. So, you know, I appreciate him spending that week in jail for me. But again, identity theft can happen. It's a real thing. You can actually go to jail for something that somebody else did. But the verifications have to be there because the challenges also have to be there. Now, the takeaway is a bad identifier infects probable cause and particularity, basically specificity. And often officers ignore contrary identifying information. Suppression and dismissal are on the table when that happens because, again, the challenges are available to you. Now, what the Constitution requires before your name hits a warrant: probable cause and specificity. The warrant must be grounded in truthful, non-reckless facts. Say that again. The warrant must be grounded in truthful, non-reckless facts. Franks v. Delaware. If the affidavit included false statements or reckless omissions, because I want you to understand that. If it includes false statements or reckless omissions, so even if stuff that's supposed to be there isn't there, the warrant itself is tainted and probable cause is void, leaving the warrant itself void and fruits of the poisonous tree, meaning everything that is found, even the arrest, is subject to dismissal and suppression. Now, that's where you also get the false arrest, false imprisonment, kidnapping charges from, because those things are stemming from them doing their procedures correctly, which they don't do. Now, good faith limits, because again, this is one of their defenses. The government will argue United States v. Leon. Officers act in objective good faith. Your counter is no good faith when the warrant is factually deficient. Wrong person, and when the affiant misled the magistrate. And the egregious omission. Absolutely understand the whole point is the challenge. Making sure they're doing what's proper and true. Now, the database error. Government cites Herring versus United States. Your counter, Herring excused isolated negligence, not reckless or systematic record keeping by identity. Because what did I just say? My driver's license, my birth certificate, and my social security card all are used for identification. All had different names on them. It's the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And even to the point where me and my father, we had first and last names that match. Middle names were different. Great part about that, they actually put our records together in many cases. These are the things in which you can challenge, because systematic sloppiness can still trigger exclusion and fuse Monell liability later. Now, street level reality, mistaken identity arrest. Hill v. California, a reasonable mistake of identity can support a seizure. The state will lean on Hill hard. Your pushback, Baker v. McCullen, holds that a brief detention under a factually valid warrant isn't automatically unconstitutional. But if the officers ignore clear evidence they have the wrong person, continued detention and morphs into a due process Fourth Amendment problem, which is what I spoke about just a few minutes ago. The officer, in my case, actually made sure he had everything correct. He did not ignore clear evidence that he had the wrong person. The officer down that was calling the man Leon when his name was Charles or whatever, he did not ignore it. He actually, he did ignore clear evidence that he had the wrong person. Even when he was told by another officer who came to the scene, this is not the guy, he still arrested him. This opened up a violation of due process as well as a Fourth Amendment problem. Why? Because he did not go through the totality of circumstances. He did not investigate properly. He did not pay attention to detail. He was not specific. That's what makes him liable for the actions that happened, because he exercised discretion that was detrimental to his oath of keeping people in a beneficial manner. Now, practical leverage, if you provide ID or fingerprints and they don't match, or photo or physical descriptions don't match, continuing to hold you becomes unreasonable. That makes suppression stronger and sets up damages. Now, entry, stops, and fruits of the poisonous tree. What we got over here? House entries, which is Payton v. New York, requires an arrest warrant. Say that again. House entries requires an arrest warrant and reason to believe you are inside the home. This is one of those great ones, because I spoke about the young lady for negligent retention. She has a tendency of forcing her way into people's home without a warrant, which makes her a bad police officer, because the home requirement requires consent or a warrant, which she generally doesn't have. This makes anything she finds in that home fruit of the poisonous tree, and her actions willfully unlawful. Anytime you see an officer that does not have consent to be in home, nor has a warrant, and they stick their foot in the door, they are then liable to the homeowner for actions that are detrimental to their oath, because they're not working towards the benefit of that person as they are required to. And they must believe that there's someone there, right? Because even Stigl versus U.S. requires a search warrant to enter a third party's home. Wrong name, wrong location, that's double trouble, lack of specificity, plus unlawful entry. Unlawful entry can be won in court. These things that a lot of people overlook, you can hold them accountable for it. And you can do it quickly. But you must understand there's an avenue for that. And even when the suppression changed, Wanson v. United States and Brown v. Illinois, something I went over a couple of days ago, if the arrest was unlawful, wrong person, wrong warrant, illegal entry, everything downstream is tainted. Why? Because a legal act cannot be preceded by an illegal one. The cautionary case. Utah v. Strife. This is one I went through literally years ago. And a lot of people misunderstood how it was being applied in the context of defense. Now, an outstanding warrant can attenuate an initial unlawful stop. Your counter. Our problem is the warrant itself is unreliable as to identify, and the attenuation doesn't cure a factually defective or fraud-tainted warrant. In Strife, they use the pretext of a warrant to then go and search him incident to arrest. That's where the context of Utah v. Strife comes from. But it's also understanding how to apply it and how to weaponize it, because you know certain things are going to come from it. Because again, the biggest thing that you have is the fact that they will not do the job properly. Now, let's say you're arrested. This again happened to me because I did not want to give the police my name. They held me as a John Doe. Well, unbeknownst to me for the most part, I didn't know my mother had come up there twice with my work ID. And basically what she was attempting to do was set up an emergency identity hearing or a motion to quash the warrant for misidentification or specificity failure. Go with a Frank's motion because you're going to challenge errors and omissions. Motion to suppress, invoking Warren and Brown. Argue no Leon, good faith because the identity defect is facial and based on reckless disregard. The release clock. The County of Riverside v. McLaughlin. Probable cause determination must be done within 48 hours. Prolonged detention after you prove you are not the person is a due process violation and builds your civil case. Brady, request for all data on misidentification, prior mistaken record by the same agency, and any internal reviews. Giglio impeached for sloppy ID practices. This again is one of those where the Supreme Court just ruled again last week. I want to say it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. Acting and going into the wrong home is reckless, unacceptable behavior, and the police that do it are liable for their actions. Now, a lot of people don't pay attention that because the Supreme Court is doing their thing, and you're probably going to get one ruling or two rulings or more a week. Now, they're not ruling on everything that's huge. They're ruling on small matters in a consistent manner, and this is what it comes out. Now, what you want to do on the record is force the prosecution to state how they link you, not the name string, to the suspect. Date of birth, social security number, biometric hits, unique describers. Silence equals leverage. Don't say anything, because your emotions are going to be what strike all of that down. And then you get into a point of reading and reciting. Now, the civil remedies after you win, because that's what we do if you're coming to me, 42 USC 1983. And you can also go to Bivens claims if it's someone outside the state. Thompson v. Clark, that's a 2022 case for malicious prosecution, because just like I spoke about the district attorney down, I want to say it was in Harris County. I might be wrong, probably not, where they found out a lot of records were tainted. And the district attorney said people have an opportunity to have their case dismissed because they were still going to prosecute him even though they knew the evidence was tainted. They even knew that the chain of custody was tainted. If they're not going to challenge it, we're not going to just drop it. And that's the problem. That becomes a malicious prosecution. And you satisfy favorable termination by showing the case ended without a conviction. Great for wrong name dismissals. Monell, I gave you this. This is actually, I believe, one of my first cases when I first started this. you actually make the municipality and supervisor liable for the actions for outdated warrant database, failure to identify, and ignoring mismatched flags. The police department and other aspects, even the city and state, are liable for those actions. Qualified immunity: Harlow v. Fitzgerald, Pearson v. Callahan, defeated by showing clearly established law that officers may not persist in detaining a person once they know or should know identity doesn't match. This is one of the qualified immunity takers that applied down when the young man kept saying, "I've never been down there, that's not me," and the officer still arrested him. That officer made a conscious choice to do so, which means that officer is now liable. Now, here's the thing, because again, we have LifeLock and all kind of mess to protect your identity, because identity theft is a real thing. Demand referral under 18 U.S.C. 1028 for egregious conduct under color of law. This, again, where you hold the big dogs accountable. It's 242 and demand your in a demand letter. This is a powerful negotiation leverage event, even if the prosecutor never files. So look, you still have a case, even if you are never charged. Always understand that, because evidence you must gather. Simple things. And I always tell, get a proof of incarceration. Make sure you're taking notes on your location, car numbers, and get all the information. Even if you've done something as simple as change your name, even an ID, witness statements, and then go after past agency audits on misidentifications. And that will be your liability, state liability challenge. Now, you're going to echo preventing future issues. Keep all IDs updated, carry proof of legal name change. Now, I can go through a whole litany of things that you can do, but at the end of the day, if the stop isn't lawful, none of that matters anyway. And that's why you go take them to court and tap those pockets. Because a wrong name on a warrant is not a clerical oops. It's a constitutional failure with criminal and civil consequences. Your roadmap is simple. Identify the identity defect, kill the warrant at Fanks, suppress the fruits and end the case, then sue the system that failed to check who you are. Paper beats power when you know how to play the game. Until next time, keep your documents tight, keep your demands precise, and keep your rights weaponized. This is Supreme Decision. That's my 2 cents. Spend it how you like. And I'll see you guys in a couple hours, because I am getting ready to go home and I'm getting ready to eat.